Cooler's standing unique attack has a couple of changes to it, so let's take a look at how the move previously behaved. Previously, it was an 11-frame startup option, so you're able to true string into this off of any of his normals. The rest do work, I just need to take time to demonstrate all of that for y'all. In addition to that, the behavior on hit looked like this. Previously, the opponent would pop up into the air and stay stationary. This also meant that you could pretty much combo into this attack from any one of his normals. And you can pretty much always link into his beam afterwards as well. In his combo structure, this is generally used after some of his smash launchers in order to then link into this beam, actually. I'll try to demonstrate here. While that's not an optimal demonstration, the idea is just to show you how the link would have worked after you use a Smashless 5 Heavy, and then the Ki Blast to then combo into his beam. That's how it all worked before. We have to take a look at how Standing Unique Attack behaves now. Now let's take a look at the new 5S properties. It's 2 frames faster, so now it's a 9-frame startup option, which will definitely have some impact on Cooler's combo routing. And additionally, it also means it's a slightly better neutral poke because it's faster. However, it's still fairly stubby. So odds are you're still using this at some mid-ranges. Now, the knockback on hit is where things get a little tricky to sort of sparse out. As you might be able to tell, it looks very much the same. However, it does seem like instead of the opponent popping up, they kind of stay in place and then fall down. And now, while you can still link into this and pretty much preserve a bunch of close-range combo routes, when you actually get into some of Cooler's combo routing itself, this is where some differences start to pop up. I don't know why it always takes me 2 tries. As you can tell right here, thanks to the changes in Standing Unique Attack, this combo route that used to be a mid-screen bread and butter for Cooler no longer works, so you actually have to make some adjustments to your routing with Cooler now. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the combo changes that Cooler players have been making. So let's go ahead and take a look at how Cooler players have been adjusting their combo routing with these changes. So Reckless John here has actually been able to post quite a couple of combo examples regarding Cooler. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate some of them here. We can see here that instead of going into another 5H into 5S, we're instead cutting into the Death Flash beam after the 2M. And there you super dash. It looks like you do an instant air dash, JS, whiff jump heavy, land, and link a JL. Actually kind of looks like a cool rejump. And he reports that the damage is higher than what the old B&B was. So, while Cooler mains will have to probably relearn their combos, there is going to be some better combos that now exist thanks to this change. It might be a little bit of a headache, but it does mean that the character is going to be a bit stronger. Reckless John does note that you can get a little bit more damage than what he demonstrated here. Although this does not work on all the characters in the game, right? So if you change the ender slightly, you can get just a little bit more damage, but evidently this doesn't actually work against small characters. The other thing to note is that this JH whiff combo also has issues against some tall characters. If we take a look against Cell, for example, if you go for this particular combo, you can see the JH actually hits Cell, and this also affects other characters. Reckless John lists Labcoat, Gogeta 4, Baby, UI, Hit, Beerus, and Cell. And I'd argue that pretty much most of those characters are fairly either meta-relevant or popular characters, so this could be a bit of a headache. He does have an alternative combo that you can do here. So you can just instead go for kind of like a classic rejump where you do instant air dash JM, and then you pick up this combo here on these characters. instead. So there is alternatives for you to do. Even more damaging route works on all mentioned characters, but he doesn't know if it works on everyone, so maybe someone else can confirm that within the Cooler patch notes themselves. But that's kind of like what is looking like the developments for Cooler's mid-screen stuff. However, there is some new things playing around with Cooler in the corner as well, thanks to this 5S change. I'm going to have to mute the music real quick just to be safe. As you can actually see now, you're able to just do 5S loops here instead of the Death Flash loops. So that is a little bit of something, potentially. I didn't really see anybody do that previously, and I think... Oh, that's kind of funny, actually. You get a little built-in side swap. And there is actually a variant of what we were seeing before with that with JH rejump here, actually working on Cell. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this only works on Cell. This is cursed as hell. Very cursed, but I guess here is a potential example of some stuff. Is there one more clip after this? I think we just see the level 3 finish here. Yep, that is the case. So that is a Nidon. I would also highly recommend that you check out Nidon out for any more Cooler tech as well. Because Nidon also has a new 2H route. Let's go ahead and mute that as well. 2H. And if you do JS right here, and JS actually will be something that we'll talk about in a moment, that opens up this potential new combo route. If you time JS correctly off of the ground bounce from Jump Heavy, you're actually then able to get this link, giving Cooler some rejump combos off of his 2H in mid-screen, which is a pretty substantial damage buff in a lot of those situations. Yeah, and you can just, you know, see the full cash out here, ending in not quite a TOD, but like almost a TOD. Nidon does say that this might only work on only big bodies. But, you know, I guess, I don't know, I'm actually having trouble understanding this tweet. Probably, when I have time, I'll check if it works on other hitboxes, but I doubt it. Like, does this only work on big bodies? Does it only work on big bodies or not? We actually don't have confirmation of that. So if anyone actually has been able to test this combo on some smaller bodies, do let us know. But that's some of the changes in Cooler's combo routing, thanks to the 5S change, but also the upcoming jumping unique attack change. So let's talk about that next. Jumping S also has faster startup. Previously, it was about 15 frames startup. So there could be some tendencies for it to drop in higher hit stun scaling combos. So how much faster is Jump Special? Quite faster. It's now 9 frame startups, which opens up a lot of new combo potential for Cooler, especially at his higher hit stun decay combos. In fact, a lot of the examples that I was looking at previously showcase some new combos or new links that I believe were only possible in this current patch. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me here, but generally with a change like this, you're able to now add in this attack to give yourself additional damage and meter build in your Cooler combos, especially in your air combos, as well as enabling things like that jump heavy link that we just saw. Genocidal Uppercut, Cooler's 3H, or down forward heavy, has a buff to it. Previously, the move didn't quite go full screen. Considering that this is your anti-projectile rushdown tool for Cooler, this could be a little bit frustrating in some situations. Of course, dashing forward and then doing this was simple enough. But not having it reach at all ranges could cause the opponent to be able to retreat and make this whiff, unless, of course, they committed to doing a projectile. But again, Cooler would have to at least get a little bit closer in order for this to work. It was always able to anti-reflect proof since, you know, it went practically full screen. And well, where can you go from a nearly full screen normal if you're increasing the distance it moves? Well, a true, proper full-screen normal for Cooler. This should just mean that, you know, he doesn't have to worry about any sort of positioning when it comes to using his Genocidal Uppercut in neutral. If he presses this button and you're on the ground, he's going to collide with you. All 3 versions of Death Chaser, Cooler's dive kick attack, have some adjustments to them. So let's go through them one by one. The light version of Death Chaser used to behave like this on block. You were left right next to the opponent, but Cooler was negative, so you namely use this if you wanted a relatively fast overhead. Being 24 frame startup, this was basically the same speed as 6M, but with worse frame data, so there really wasn't much of a reason to use it outside of maybe some combo structures, but I largely didn't see Coolers use this at all unless they wanted to drag the opponent down to the ground to extend with some kind of assist. Now let's take a look at the buffed Death Chaser. There's more block stun on the move, and they've increased the knockback on block. So now Cooler actually has a +2 on block meterless option. That's 24 frame startup, just as fast as 6M. Basically, I don't really see why would you go for 6M outside of, just a different animation to add on to the mental stack. Because now, you got this option, just force your turn again. It's very reminiscent to what Super Saiyan Goku can do with all of his overheads. The medium version of Death Chaser has a different change that accomplishes some similar things to the light version. They reduce the delay on miss and on block. Basically, Cooler recovers faster. Here we can see that on whiff, it took a total of 52 frames for the move to complete, and then for Cooler to be able to act out of it. On block, Cooler was plus at +4, which was pretty good for a 30-frame overhead. You namely use this just to reset pressure against the opponent. So now let's take a look at the medium version of Death Chaser with its reduced delay on miss and on block. So about 49, 50 frames, depending on my inputs and whatnot in training mode for recovery here, meaning that this should be a little safer for you to whiff in neutral in case you're trying to use this move to fly around the screen, though I would probably suggest using the light version since it does have faster startup. But, they are kind of comparable, I suppose, 50 frames, 57 frames, so it's probably up to your preference and read based on the situation. Additionally, on block, there's a couple of things going on here. So with the reduced delay, obviously, Cooler has more plus frames to work with. Previously, we noted that he was +4 on block here, and now he can be +7, which actually opens up to some potential new stagger options for him here. If he was +4 and you took his 10-frame 5M, he would be able to, press 5M in this situation and have it interact with 5Ls. I'm not sure if it actually beat it because of priority or if it clashed, but now he actually cleanly beats a 5L here just by virtue of startup. So I'm not sure if that differed before. I unfortunately have done some additional testing in the current version of the patch without, doing it in the old version. And one of the reasons was, as I was looking into this, if you switch up the opponent and you bring in a taller character than GT Goku, some of the frame advantage changes here. Instead of getting +7 against UI Goku, I'm getting +5. So there was a couple of frames of difference here. So one of the other results of Death Chaser Medium getting this buff is that now Cooler has more plus frames against taller cast members now because, they're going to block the move sooner than the shorter characters here. So this will also change some of the situations accordingly. I originally was going to be looking into a situation where Cooler could potentially bait out frame 4 reversals using 5M. However, that is going to depend on what character you make block with this move. So I encourage all the Cooler players out there, you're going to have to kind of study some of the matchups and maybe create a little spreadsheet document as far as what your average plus on block frame data is off of this move. Now, of course, if you just simply go with this version and you try to 5L here, let me see if I can stress test it. It looks like I still can't actually, because 6 frames, not quite in time to actually beat the frame 4 invincibility off of this. Because his jab is a 6-framer. There we go. Okay, I was just mistiming it. Pardon me, I'm glad I persevered through this a bit. If your timing is correct off of this, you should be able to pretty much beat a frame 4 reversal on a lot of the cast. Now, depending on if there's other characters who have access to a frame 4 reversal that, are maybe taller than UI Goku to give you less frame advantage here, that might be something worth exploring here. But definitely check that out. In some matchups, you could use 5M to bait a frame 4 reversal instead, but it's not universal. 5L should be fairly universal, though. Again, check with all the cast. I simply want to highlight this. Since this is a very basic breakdown of some of the changes, I can't really do a deep dive into this one nuance of Cooler's kit. And unfortunately, there is some nuance to explore. The EX version had a change to its startup. Previously, at point blank range, it was about 24 frames, again, as fast as a 6M overhead. However, you would be able to get a sliding knockdown into supers off of this. Generally, it just meant that this was a nice overhead option for Cooler to threaten with and add on to his mental stagger. But since he doesn't really have any other EX moves to threaten with, people could always just see the EX move burst out and then block high. So how much faster is the heavy version of Death Chaser? It's 2 frames faster, meaning that it's actually 2 frames faster than his 6hem and is thus his fastest overhead within his kit. Again, you still have like the weakness of the EX flash kind of pointing it out, but it should be a little more difficult for your opponent to react to this move, which is nice because this is a move that Cooler can combo off of. You can either use Assist to extend this combo here, you can do Vanish to pick up the combo with Meter, go into a Super, kind of like whatever floats your boat or whatever resources you have given the context of it. Deathbreaker, Cooler's DP, has a couple of changes across its light and heavy version. Looking at the light version first, they've changed the delay for the ground version. Previously, it took a total of 65 frames for the move to complete. On block, this meant that Cooler would recover after 43 frames, so he was punishable. Additionally, on hit, obviously, you can get the follow-up here. But you weren't actually able to link anything out of it outside of just completing the entire move itself. So what does it look like now for Cooler with his reduced delay for Deathbreaker Light? Well, if you look at the frame advantage here, it says -45 for Cooler to land, but then the second option shows you that he's -1 here, meaning that he's actually safe. That second number in the parentheses is like the actionable time. So actually, if you look here, Cooler can jump out of this normal now. Or not this normal, this special move. So he's able to recover in air and be safe, which I think is like fair, considering that this is like just not a true invincible attack, but a jump invincible attack. You might be thinking, well, this has opened up combo routes for him. Unfortunately, there's like just too much hit stun here, or recovery here, even with the hit stun, for Cooler to get anything. By the time I can jump, GT Goku is recovering out of the tech, so it's not like I can jump and do a normal to link into GT Goku. But this should mean that if Cooler is blocked here, he is going to be able to block, jump, relocate himself. So that's actually kind of a nice buff for a frame 1 anti-air to receive. Now if the opponent is able to successfully bait it, you are just, independently safe. Instead of having to do this and call an assist like you can do, you could just save the assist call and, return a neutral, or use the assist call still and create a scramble, possibly even, doing something like this. Going in for an overhead high-low mix-up. I don't know how real this would necessarily be, but there might be something to explore here. The heavy version of Deathbreaker had adjustments to its distance moved. On whiff, this move could go pretty far. On block, it still could go quite far. And again, Cooler was -44 here, so he's eating a punish. On hit, Cooler again could carry the enemy quite up a ways. And if you did the follow-up move anywhere on screen, you got a cross-up, leading into a side switch. And now for a look at the new EX Deathbreaker travel distance. You can tell that he lunges forwards considerably more. And while the distance on block and everything might be very similar, this could result in him being able to reach with some DPs, where it's not so stubby, just because if the opponent's back here, he's almost able to catch them. So this probably is a change to make it just a little harder for you to bait out this DP. The air version looks very similar to me just by looking at it. And I'm not sure in combos if anything has really changed for Cooler here. Like, you still do the EX follow-up, you still side swap out of the corner. So I think a lot of the properties on hit are going to be the same, but it should just be a DP that has more of a horizontal threat to it than it did before. Mirroring the buff to his Genocidal Uppercut, Cooler's B assist also has some changes to it. They've increased the distance move, but they've also sped up the attack startup. So in the previous version of the game, this is what the B assist would look like. 35 frame startup for a projectile invincible lariat. Seems kind of okay, but there's definitely stronger lariat style assist than this. And it was fairly stubby. Again, it covered most of the screen, but it certainly just took its time getting across it. And now let's take a look at how they buffed the B assist. So as I mentioned, they buffed the startup by 5 frames, so now this is a 30 frame projectile immune lariat style assist, which is nice. They've also increased the distance moved, So now it's actually a full screen option for you, which does make this a pretty attractive assist to me. It's not like necessarily a fast lariat assist, and its block stun is okay, but don't forget, this is projectile immune, so if I have GT Goku here, fire a Kamehameha just like this, and I call Cooler, like, Cooler can just stop zoning. He can just go in there and beat the opponent up for you and get that started. It's not going to be quite as easy to combo off of as something like an invincible C assist, but think this kind of makes B assist sort of attractive in my eyes. Generally speaking, I would see Cooler players run with his A assist because it's a true DP assist. He's got iframes right here, meaning it's a great defensive tool and it was easy to combo off of, or his C assist because it's a multi-hitting beam assist, which is the best form of a C beam assist. But now I actually think that there might be some utility and usage for his B assist. We'll have to see if any Cooler player chooses to experiment with it. Overall, I think Cooler is doing pretty well for himself in this patch. The buffs to standing unique attack and jumping unique attack do result in him having to rework some of his combo routes, but they seem to be plenty easy reworks. Like instead of going for 2M 5H 5S Death Flash after you get a Smash Launcher 5H, instead you just run up to 2M 5S and then kind of continue on as normal. In addition to that, you get more combos thanks to the jumping unique attack change since it is faster, so you're able to sprinkle in a little more key blast damage, a little more meter gain as well for some of your combo routing, and there's a lot of new toys here to play with, and I've kind of just scratched the surface. I highly recommend following anyone I showcased on Twitter that was posting Cooler stuff, joining the Cooler character Discord, things like that, to find more resources about it. He appreciates the buff to Genocidal Uppercut, giving him stronger full screen anti-zoning neutral. The Death Chaser buffs are also great because now all of his Death Chasers are plus unblock options, and the EX version is going to be his fastest overhead, which is very attractive, and the fact it's better than 6M in terms of startup is really good. Deathbreaker Light, he's got a safe anti-air DP now, as well as Deathbreaker having a little more of a horizontal threat, and he might actually have a competitive third assist to use as well. Most of his most important changes that have made him the full screen combo carrying monster that he is have already sort of happened here, but these are some nice changes for Cooler that people I think are going to appreciate. So by all means, check out Cooler. I think he's pretty solid in this patch.